Hello citizens, and we are here on our first installment of the Star Citizen Survival Guide. So, in this guide we will look at your various things you can wander into and have happen to you, and how to keep track of your health and look after yourself. So in this episode we will cover how you'll be able to heal yourself and monitor your health. I'll be using information from the CIG website along with some various scenarios that you could be put into. The information from the CIG website is a bit dated, so things may have changed like a little slightly from then till now. We'll soon find out. So yeah, let's just jump right in and get started. For health, CIG have devised a limb-based system with varying degrees of severity, performance, and reaction that we feel makes FPS combat more tactical and interesting. Keeping in the spirit of total immersion, limb damage is a serious issue in FPS combat. All parts of the body have their own health. What this means is that there is no overall health. Instead, 10 different parts of the body called limbs track their own data and impacted by the total for each citizen. The amount of damage an individual limb suffers can be modified by other factors, such as armor and even the environment. For instance, having armor on a particular limb will reduce the damage effect. There are 4 levels of health for each limb, each of which impacts how your character controls, what they are capable of, their response time, and so on. These are 1. Normal. You are fit and ready to fight. 2. Hurt. Hurt limbs can cause problems with aiming, walking, and other functions that would require that limb. Limbs can get hurt from being too close to an electric spark, flame, outer explosion, or being hit with objects in the environment. Light armored players can quickly get hurt. 3. Damaged. Damaged limbs are useless, and a player cannot use them unless they get them patched up or in the field or taken to a mobile trauma station. In this state, right after the hurt phase, the pain is so severe the player, no matter what limb is damaged, they will have a hard time being mobile. If one of their legs are damaged, they fall to the ground and crawl. 4. Ruined. Limbs in this phase are essentially gone. The player is most likely bleed out at this state. This is usually something as bad as your arm being blown off. If the ruined limb as an arm, then you will not be able to aim weapons that require it. For example, two-handed weapons require both arms to be outside the ruined state. Screen effects are also present to simulate the pain the player is enduring in this state. If the player is able to be healed by a player with medical equipment, the limb is completely gone and cannot be used, but the player can at least move around and continue the fight, if they have their legs, that is. Limbs. In the current system, there are 10 limbs that can receive isolated damage. 1. Head. 2. Torso. 3. Upper right arm. 4. Right arm. Lower. 5. Left upper arm. 6. Left lower arm. 7. Right upper leg. 8. Right lower leg. 9. Left upper leg. 10. Left lower leg. Limb damage is measured as a percentage, with normal being a limb at 90% or greater. Hurt is between 90 and 50. Damaged is from 50 to 1, and ruined is 0. Limbs will transition between 3 states of damage based on the amount of health the limb has remaining. Modifiers such as armor or atmosphere also impact the health base numbers. Identifying limb damage. There are many ways a limb damage can be identified. These are just a few. Visual. Damage to limbs will normally be observed by players. Taking a hit will call out a damage state, in much the same way as our ships. Helmet, HUD, Mobiglass. When a limb changes state, an icon of the limb flashes on screen to its current state. This is only available if you have the biometric suit attachment for your Mobiglass, or your armor suit has a biometric monitoring. Gadget. Some gadgets will allow players to track their limb damage state, including medical devices or HUD devices. If you are not wearing the appropriate gear, you may not have a fancy status indicator keeping your character up to date with the state of your health. It will be critical for you to pay attention to other signs, such as shortness of breath, limping, and loss of limbs, tunnel vision, and other signs. If your character is bleeding out, you will fall limp in such agony that you're unable to move. If you are wearing the appropriate gear, you might be able to track your character's status better. These charts represent an example of how you see your character's overall health status. Each state is more violent in color, coded for easy recognition. While you can track limb damage visually, you won't have the specific medical information available from a dedicated scanner. But when you take a hit, your body in Star Citizen, you are going to be able to see it, and so will everybody else. Healing. For our equivalent of respawn, when permadeath is avoided, we wanted a system that makes players want to avoid dying. No simple reappearing in a few meters from your body. The concept is simple. In the world of Star Citizen, it's pretty hard to instantly kill a player. Instead, he's likely to take heavy limb damage, incapacitating him until a friendly player manages to drag him to safety and apply some medical aid. If a player has critical limb damage, healed up to at least hurt level, then can get back up and re-enter combat. Of course, if there is no one to aid the downed comrade, and the opposing side gets there first, they may have the choice to make sure the enemy is out of action, or they could be more humane and capture the wounded combatant. It's important to mention again that with this system, we'll avoid the current trend of hiding behind cover for blood to clear off your screen and then jumping back into the fight ready for more. Aside from the realism aspect, we really were excited at the prospect this could promote much more teamwork between your allies, since you would be much more reliant on the help if you suffer damage wound, as well as promoting much more calculated approach to tactics, being careful not to spread your forces too thin. There are also only so much healing one body can take. Each time a temporary battlefield medic device is used, the ability to repair that limb becomes less and less. After a point, there is nothing more that can be done than taking the fallen comrade to a proper hospital to be fully healed, or risk him dying from his wounds. Player dragging. If you or your teammate are unable to move, limbs are ruined or close to, a teammate can help by dragging that person off the battlefield or to a medical pod. This is context-sensitive action and will drag players based on grabbing them at their shoulders. While they're being dragged, a player will lose his input abilities. From one exception would be if your legs are ruined if you are not bleeding out. In your case, you will still have control over aiming while being dragged. A player being dragged can exit being dragged with a counter-context sensitive action in a case they don't want to be moved. After the player is being dragged, aborts the drag, then there's a short cooldown before they can be dragged again. Movement. There are 4 ways players can be dragged: laying on their back, dragged at their shoulders; laying on their back, dragged by their feet; laying on their stomach, dragged by their shoulders; laying on their stomach, dragged by their feet. The player doing the dragging uses both hands to pull the wounded player. Medical devices. There will be 2 types of ways for players to be healed through field tech and intensive systems that can only be provided by medbays or med stations. In short, if you are in a combat area, you cannot be healed to your full capacity. When you're seriously injured, you must take your character through the process of proper recovery. Field tech are gadgets that can be carried by players or NPCs that are capable of providing temporary healing for a variety of wounds. They will nullify pain, stop bleeding, restore vital systems, and calm body systems to states where the person can function again. Gadget aids cannot rebuild tissue, but can provide enough white blood cell replacements to heal up small wounds at an extremely fast pace. One such example is the Dynapack from CureLife, with its complete multifunction individual first aid system designed and constructed for the rigors of field use. With CureLife's proprietary serum, the single Dynapack will promote healing in non-serious wounds to get you back on your feet. Intense systems are medical services that can only be found in medbays and hospitals. Capable of handling much more serious wounds, they are full-size medical immersion chambers outfitted with technology to rebuild tissue, replace blood, and perform their other operations through advanced 3D printing technology. There are even new systems such as the Catalope that are capable of completely reconstructing a person's appearance. Your player's overall health status is essentially the state of all your limbs combined. As each limb goes through various stages, your overall health status can quickly change. your health status does not change linearly, as it will quickly become fatal at an exceptional rate. For instance, if it is your head, there's not much a med device can do for you. Bleed out. Bleeding out is your character's enemy. If you are bleeding out, you're probably done for. There is still hope. Paying attention to your health status is critical. If a player takes a lot of damage to a limb in one blow, the damage doesn't affect the player's total health status right away. Instead, a portion of damage to the limb eats away at your health over time. This is to simulate the idea you don't die in a single blast. You bleed out over time. Upon taking this type of damage, the player will begin to bleed out at a set rate, giving a limited amount of time to live unless they can find a medical station or a friendly player uses a medical device on them. If the player takes a massive amount of damage to a specific limb in one blow, it follows a similar formula to the much larger scale. It is important to note that in a heavy bleed out state, the player will have no ability to aim a weapon as the pain is just too severe. Bring in the starships. What is Star Citizen without ships? As you know, the FPS module is being designed to support the existing focus on starship combat rather than to replace it. So, how do the two mechanics complete each other out? The answer is, there is a significant amount of strategy involved. Star Citizen spaceflight will include a robust rescue system. Search and rescue missions are one of our major umbrella mission types. Players will be called upon to rescue both NPCs and players who find themselves shot down or otherwise stranded in space. Using the same systems outlined above, players can suffer injuries during space combat, and there is no more likely place for this to occur than during ejection/ship destruction. Imagine following a distress beacon to a downed pilot floating in space. You put your EVA outfit on, vent your atmosphere, and exit your ship to rescue them. Pulling the player on board, you find they've taken a laser blast to the arm, or a mass driver to the chest. Here the FPS healing mechanic again takes place, and you must stabilize them for the trip to the hospital facility. Unless you are carrying the hospital with you. A number of Star Citizen ships have already been revealed to have medical bays on board or as options, and more are in the works. There's even a large dedicated hospital ship in the fourth wave of ship designs, which will allow even more player recovery and which will possibly even act as a mobile respawn spot for not quite permadead citizens. Carrying a medical bay is strategic expense. You lose cargo space and energy to support the facilities. But if you're interested in recovering other pilots and getting them back into action quickly, it's the way to go. So that pretty much covers the article from CIG on how to heal your spaceman. So as we already know, the Endeavour was the next medical ship that was coming up in that lineup to be the dedicated hospital. As we all know also, the Endeavour is absolutely huge and an incredibly modular spacecraft, so you can turn it into what you generally need it to do, unless it's a combat role where it's not really built for that. So, let's jump into scenarios now. So, citizens, what have we learned from the first segment? What we have learned is that you must always carry your medical equipment on you, just in the case of event of limb or body destruction. Always remember to stay out of trouble, unless you are going down the combat road, and then you should always double check and invest in your safety equipment, such as your armor and your weapons. Now folks, please take heed to the warnings posted in this video, such as you can bleed out, and if you get shot in the head, you're dead. So, moving on. Now, let's say you're on board your freelancer, and then all of a sudden you are attacked by pirates. You can A. decide to hand over the cargo and risk taking further damage. B. hit the gas but maybe your ship's not quick enough and you get destroyed anyway. Or 3. call for help, which could also present danger. Well, the answer is depending on your current situation. If you are in a fast ship and you think you can get away, always try to run. Or if you're in a slow-moving vessel and there's no escape, try to comply with the pirates. They may be ruthless, but they may also have a heart and let you go unscathed. Or you can use Bob 105th's mantra, where life is but a commodity, just like the rest of everything else in the game. So you'll be flying in your bashed up Hornet with your goggles instead of a windshield and a snorkel connected directly into the oxygen generator and flying in kamikaze style. But I wouldn't recommend that, because this is the Star Citizen Survival Guide, and Bob only knows one thing: how to get killed really quickly. So, let's now say, what do you do if you're confronted by a dogfight scenario? Always, if you are not feeling you are up to the fight or equipped, bug out. Never try to challenge the person if their ship is capable of outmatching yours. If their ship is more deadly than yours, you are in deep trouble. As we just covered, a mass driver to the chest is never a good way to go. And don't think when you step out of your ship the danger ends there. When you are on foot, you are more vulnerable than ever to things like the general atmosphere of the planet, loose weapon fire, also wildlife. All of these things are very dangerous, so always keep medical equipment with you at all times and some good personal armor. Also, if you are looking to pursue the combat career for on-foot endeavors, please make sure that you receive adequate training and do train in the Star Marine module first. So guys, that was the first section of our Star Citizen Survival Guide video series. I hope you enjoyed it. Tried to make it as fun as possible. Wanted to cover some of the rough basics in this one, so not much general scenario stuff going on, but I got some pretty cool ideas for the future. So yeah, thank you for watching, guys. Thank you for tuning in. You guys are awesome. I hope you enjoyed the video. Also, let me know what you think of the picture for the Star Citizen Survival Guide cover. I was gonna go with a design that's very similar to like something you get on a book or something in Star Citizen, and yeah, that's what I went for. So let me know what you thought of the video in the comments below and whatnot. And yeah, see you in the next one, guys. As always, guys, you know the drill. Fly safe, Commanders, and I'll see you in the verse.